Hi, I'm Tony Fahkry and welcome to week 6 of the 90-day challenge. You're officially at the halfway point at this time, and no doubt you're beginning to see the fruits of your labour and the transformation beginning to take shape. This is also a time where you might be questioning your purpose. Is this the right thing for me? Am I really going about it the right way? Do I really want this? So that initial excitement that started of getting started in a new project or a new goal or a new endeavour has been left behind, and now you're actually doing the work. So setbacks begin to happen. So with that in mind, I want to offer you some points that will help you navigate the next weeks ahead in order to gain success and in order to achieve your goals. So some of the questions and points that you might want to consider are the following. What is your motivation for pursuing this goal in the first place? Is it to satisfy something, or is it to escape from something? And so effectively, are you pursuing pleasure or are you running away from pain? Tony Robbins calls it the pain-pleasure principle appropriately. So where do you sit in that scale? And that is, people who pursue pleasure are more likely to achieve success and results as opposed to those who pursue pain. And that is, when they strike upon pain, they move away from the pain, whereas those that seek pleasure in life, and when we define pleasure, we're talking about goals and success and outcome. Those that pursue pleasure are more likely to achieve their goals because their motivation is deeply ingrained. So it's important to get to the heart of your why. And why are you pursuing this goal in the first place? And attach an emotional connection to that goal. And by emotional connection, I mean, who will you become once you've achieved this goal? Why are you pursuing this goal in the first place? Is it to look good? Is it for self-esteem? Is it because you were bullied, or you may have been overweight as a child and there's an emotional disconnect from your childhood that perhaps resonates as a subconscious or a limiting belief? And so you feel that by being skinny or being thin or being healthy, that you will be awarded all these emotional feelings. You see, successful people are those that understand both the mental and emotional landscapes of their body. And that is, they have a strong enough connection that they're able to push past the failures. Why? Because they are connected to an emotional basis as to why they pursue their goal in the first place. And that is that their emotional connection is so strong that any external setbacks or speed hump is merely an obstacle that is part of their journey toward their goal. So I suggest that you reconnect with your why and take some time to journal and write down some of the thoughts that come to mind. And some of the questions that might help you are, why am I doing this in the first place? What do I hope to achieve from doing this transformation? Who will I become as a result of pursuing this transformation? And ultimately, whilst we don't know who we're going to become, we can have an imagination or a perception of who we'd like to become. Will I become a person that will be more confident, have more self-worth, higher self-esteem? Will I have a greater mental and emotional resilience? Will I appreciate my body? Once we appreciate who we are and what we are, both within and without, then we begin to radiate that both at a cellular level and at a physical level in terms of how we relate to others and the universe itself. So one of the things that might pop up along your journey is cravings. And we often deal with cravings because a craving is either one of two calls, and that is, it's a physiological call to address a mineral or a vitamin deficiency that is within our bodies, or it's an emotional call for something that we've been deprived within. So for example, gravitating towards foods such as bananas or chocolate or nuts may be a physiological call towards foods that are rich in magnesium. So your body might be lacking that. And how will you know? Well, if you have the item and it satisfies your physiological cravings, then generally it might be a physiological call. Alternatively, it might be an emotional call. Now, emotional cravings generally are repeated, and that is, there's a continual habit of gravitating towards this type of offending food on a regular basis, whereas the physiological craving tends to happen in waves. Every now and again you might feel like having a banana on a Monday or a chocolate on a Sunday, but there's no consistency, whereas the emotional connection generally has a habitual pattern to it. And generally emotional cravings are linked to an aspect that we've denied, and that is, are you feeling fear? Are you feeling anger? Are you feeling anxiety? And the way that we tend to do this is that we mask these fears by attending to foods that reconnect us with our childhood. And let me give you a brief example. You might have grown up in a family where at supper time desserts and chocolate was perhaps part of the family tradition, or you may have had an aunt or an uncle or a family or a loved one that offered you chocolates or sweets or comforting foods. So inevitably we still have that unconscious or subconscious connection to those foods, and we carry those with us throughout our life. And what tends to happen is that when we're in despair or when we're at our lowest point in our life, our unconscious mind kicks in order to take us back to those times when things were good, and we relive a lot of those emotions. So in order to navigate your way around that, find out whether it's an emotional call. And so before you have that offending food, here are some questions that you want to ask yourself. What emotion am I feeling? Is it an emotion linked to anger, anxiety, fear, sadness? So define the emotion, and you might say something like fear without saying I am. So don't attach the I am to it, just identify it. Fear, despair, sadness. Where in your body do you feel that emotion? Is it in your head, your throat, your chest, or your stomach? Knowing where in our body we're holding emotions is important because we can bring our awareness to that area. Now, when we talk about awareness, the awareness is much like when you stub your toe. You are aware of the pain in that area. And similarly, with an emotion generally resides or attaches itself to a certain aspect of our physiology. For some it might be the chest area, for others it might be the stomach. So knowing where in your body is an important component as well. And lastly, what does this emotion want me to know? And when you ask yourself that question, it might be that perhaps you've been deprived of self-love or self-compassion, and effectively the craving is a call to look at that self and perhaps give yourself a bit more attention. Maybe you need a little bit more fun in your life and you're not having enough fun, and therefore the craving is providing that sense of excitement and that adrenaline rush, that release of dopamine and endorphins in the brain. So attending to the emotion becomes rather important in that context. So in order to build both a mental and emotional resiliency, we need to push past the craving each time. So rather than just have the food or the offending food and then become caught up in all the emotional turbulence that comes with it of regret, next time you find yourself with a craving, stop for a moment and just get into your body. Move into your body. What are you feeling? What does your body want to know? Why do you want this craving? And walk away from it for 10-15 minutes before you put that food into your mouth. And I can assure you that the more you practice this, much like physical training or resistance training, the mind is a mental muscle and it becomes more resilient, and so too does your emotional constitution. And ultimately you create both a mental and an emotional landscape that is befitting for a body that resonates beauty, strength, and power. So, thank you for joining us on this week 6 of the 90-day challenge. I wish you well to your continued success, and remember, stay vigilant, stay hopeful, and keep the faith. Thank you.